My name is Dae Bogan. I'm the head of third-party partnerships at the MLC. So this is the how self-administered songwriters can connect to collect webinar. So we're going to start with an overview of the MLC for those of you who may not be familiar. The MLC's purpose. The purpose is to collect interactive streaming and download royalties, mechanical royalties from digital music providers. We then pass that on to publishers, administrators, self-administered writers, as well as ex-US mechanical and CMOs. The MLC is the exclusive administrator of the new blanket digital mechanical license. The MLC is the only organization that can collect and distribute the royalties paid pursuant to this new blanket license. So here's the basics. There's our songs or compositions, which copyright law calls the musical works. These are created by songwriters or composers and lyricists, and often administered by music publishers. A musical work includes the music, such as the melody, the rhythm, the harmony expressed in a system of musical notation, and the words. For example, the song Yesterday was written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Recordings, or also called sound recordings, are created by recording artists and producers, often distributed by record companies. A sound recording is not the same as an audiovisual work or video. For example, the song Yesterday was first performed and recorded by the Beatles, but numerous other artists subsequently performed and recorded or covered this song, including Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, and Frank Sinatra. So the Music Modernization Act of 2018. We are representing Title I, the Musical Works Modernization Act, which changes Section 115 of the Copyright Act. It created a new blanket compulsory mechanical license for interactive streaming, for limited downloads, and for permanent downloads. And it mandated the creation of a mechanical licensing collective to administer the new blanket license. It also mandated that the MLC establish and maintain a publicly available musical works ownership database. So its new blanket license only covers digital audio mechanicals for the use of musical works in the United States. This includes interactive streams, limited downloads, and permanent downloads. It does not include video streams or downloads, public performance, mechanicals for physical products, or non-interactive streams such as satellite or internet radio. So what does the MLC do and what do we not? Well, what does not? The MLC established and maintains a public database of musical works ownership and information. We also administer a new blanket license covering mechanical rights available to eligible digital audio services operating in the United States. We receive and match sound recording usage reporting data from digital audio services with the MLC's musical works ownership data. And we collect and distribute US digital audio mechanical royalties to music publishers, administrators, foreign CMOs, and self-administered songwriters, composers, and lyricists. We do not administer performance rights for musical works or collect performance royalties. We do not administer digital performance rights for sound recording or collect digital performance royalties. We do not administer mechanical rights or collect mechanical royalties for physical products. We also do not administer any licenses or collect any royalties related to the use of musical works and audiovisual products. And we do not administer licenses or collect royalties for the use of musical works outside the United States. The MLC does not replace PROs such as ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, and we do not replace Sound Exchange, which represents your digital performance royalties and sound recordings. So here's sort of an overview of the digital revenue streams in the United States. Starting on the left side section here, we have musical works, and under the musical works section, there are two rights, or three rights, the public performance rights, and then the reproduction and distribution rights, which are embodied in the mechanical royalties. So public performance rights generates performance royalties. Those royalties are collected by PROs, such as ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, Global Music Rights, and then they're paid out in publisher shares to musical publishers and writer shares to songwriters. Under reproduction and distribution rights, we have the mechanical royalty, those royalties that are blanket royalties that are pursuant to the new digital audio mechanical license is paid through the MLC. We pay those mechanical shares out to music publishers and administrators and self-administered songwriters. Then there are voluntary or direct licenses, those licenses that are directly negotiated between publishers and music users or representatives of publishers. Those royalties including DSPs or third-party administrators for streaming is paid directly out to mechanical shares. And then there's the download royalties, which flow from distributors and aggregators, which are also paid out in mechanical shares. On the sound recording side, we have the reproduction and distribution rights, which is embodied in your wholesale proceeds, album or track revenue. Those are paid through your distributors and aggregators from DSPs, and then paid down to record labels and self-released artists. On the digital performance royalties, those royalties are collected by Sound Exchange and paid out in a label share, a featured artist share, and then a non-featured artist share. So this is pretty much the landscape of the royalties and rights in the United States from a digital music standpoint. We do have this graphic available on our website, on our resources page for anyone interested in studying this further. So who needs to become a member of the MLC? Well, music publishers, administrators, and ex-US mechanical CMOs who are entitled to collect US digital mechanical royalties can connect to collect, which means become a member, and play your part, which is to review and update data for the works they administer. Songwriters, composers, and lyricists, if you are self-administered, any of your songs, which means you own the publishing as well as the right to register the works and collect royalties on the behalf of those works, you can become a member and you can review and update data for only the works you administer. If you do not self-administer any of your songs, you will not be able to become a member, but you can review your data in our public search database. This means if you're not self-administered, this means if you have, for example, a third-party publishing administrator who's collecting and registering your works, if you have a publishing deal, if you're signed up to the pub admin service of distributors, such as CD Baby Pro or TuneCore Music Publishing, if you're using a service such as Songtrust or Centric to administer your rights, then you may not be able to join MLC unless you're self-administering at least one of your songs. Unlike the system for performance royalties, mechanical royalties are not separated into writer shares or publisher shares. Published songwriters, composers, and lyricists whose works are administered by other parties are encouraged to work with their administrator to make any needed updates. Again, you can check and review your data in our public search. So how do you become a member? If you go to our website, which is www.themlc.com, and click the Connect to Collect blue button in the upper right corner, you'll be able to start the process of joining the MLC. The DSPs pay the MLC 100% pays 100% of our operating costs. This allows us to pay and distribute out 100% of the royalties that we receive without deducting any administration fees. So it's really important to know that by becoming a member, which is free, you're receiving 100% of your royalties from DSPs. There's no administrative fee on top of that. After you become a member, you should check your data. And you can do that by participating in our data quality initiative. Our data quality initiative is one way for individuals and companies or publishers with large catalogs to check their data in bulk. You can learn more about our DQI process by going to our website and going to the resources section. You should also confirm your payment information. Make sure you contact and your contact is correct and your payment and banking information is accurate and complete. This is important to make sure that we can distribute the royalties to the right parties efficiently. Our data quality initiative is an initiative that enables individuals and companies to check their catalog in bulk. We've had over 400 participants. We've compared over 17 million musical works. And we have a number of webinars already up on our website for the data quality initiative. So if you're a songwriter with hundreds or even thousands of works that you would like to check, it will be difficult to do so one by one by searching it. You can participate in a data quality initiative either directly through the MLC or through a number of our data quality initiative partners, which you can learn more about on our website. So this overview is about our royalty distributions. We pay royalties on a monthly basis, and there's a 75-day gap between after the royalties are accrued versus when we pay those royalties out. So let me break that down here. So let's say for the month of January. For this month of January, it's the period in which the royalties are earned. We then, 10 days after the month closes, the MLC takes a snapshot of musical works data to be used in that month's distribution. So what that means is the works that have been registered in our system and the ownership information and shares about those works, we capture that information as it exists on the 10th day following the month that after the period closes. So on that date, we're going to use this information to determine and distribute royalties. Then we spend the next 65 days working on matching, the process of matching and allocating royalties. The last day for members to update payment information is the 70th day. And then lastly, on the 75th day, after the close of the period, we do the distribution. We send out royalty statements and payments. So again, every month there will be a payment, but it's representing the period that ended 75 days prior. So for example, the usage in January was paid in April. The usage in February is paid in May. The usage in March will be paid in June, and so forth. This information is also on our website, which you can go and check it out. So here's a summary of our April's royalty distribution, which was our first distribution. We had reported to us $53.7 million in royalties was reported to us from the DSPs. Again, that was for the month of January. And then we spent, again, the 75 days in the matching and processing. We were able to match 80% of this amount. So we matched $42.7 million in royalties from the usage data provided to us from DSPs to the musical work ownership information in our public database. So we were able to match that information and identify $42.7 million in royalties. We then collected $40.4 million in royalties, and we paid out $24 million. There were $16.4 million held, and that included unmatched amounts, meaning we received usage information from DSPs, but we were unable to match it to information in our database. That could mean that works are not properly, were not registered, or shares of a work is not completely registered. We have $4.9 million in unclaimed royalties, meaning that we know who we were able to match the usage to information in our database, but we do not have ownership information or potentially don't have payment information for those shares. And then there were $500,000 in legal holds. So we're here to help. We do have a support team, and they are available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have 3 ways to contact support. You can contact support via the phone, as well as via email on our Contact Us page and our chat portal. For additional information, please visit our website, mlc.com. All right, I'm going to take questions now from the Q&A. So if you have any questions, make sure that you drop them in our Q&A box. So Stephen Wood asks, how do we check for unmatched and unclaimed royalties? We're actually rolling out a portal. Well, in our portal, we're rolling out a ability to check unclaimed, so that you can find any works that is yours and register your shares and unlock those royalties. So there will be unmatched and then there will be unclaimed royalties. Okay, I see another question here. I'm self-administered. Do I register as a writer and as a publisher? So with the MLC, we don't have writer shares and publisher shares. It's simply just mechanical shares. So you register, if you are a writer, then you put yourself down as a writer. And if you are the administrator, then you'd add yourself as the administrator as well. But it's not necessarily the same as a PRO where there's a specific publisher share, for example, 50%, and there's a specific songwriter share of 50%. This is the way this is registered is the collection shares by administrator representing the songwriters. So if you are a songwriter and you're self-administered, you would register as a songwriter. You don't need to input a publisher or an administrator. If you're the songwriter and you own 100%, that would simply be your name, the songwriter, and 100% collection. Okay, I have another message from Brian. If I am currently self-administering and I connect to collect, does that create problems if later a publisher offers to sign me as a writer and to represent my catalog? No, that would not create any problems. When you have a publisher and they're going to start administering your rights, that can be updated in the system by that publisher or by you. That there's now that portion or that share is now being administered by a third party. Does registering with the MLC while I do not have an account with a publishing admin like SoundTrust create a problem as at a point I decide I do want to work with the publishing administrator? Again, registering your works today as a self-administered songwriter will not create any problems once you start to work with a third-party publisher or administrator. You will simply change the administrator information on the works in the system so that there's now a new entity representing those songs. When and where will the portal be available? The portal is currently available, Stephen. So if you go to www.themlc.com, you can navigate to the portal, and it says public search, and you can search the portal right now and check your, you can check the public search. As far as joining and logging into the portal, you can also become a member, and that will give you more access within the portal to be able to update your works. Is there a support video to show how to input metadata? We do have a support team as well as a support help center with information regarding the portal. I'm not sure which types of videos specifically you're asking about, but we do have both the help team and a help center that provides direction and guidance. Steve asks, I have 30 custom recordings. Can the MLC help me in paying mechanicals on covers to publishers? So the MLC is not handling licensing for covers directly. So if you're going to do a cover song, you cannot come to the MLC to get a cover license. And you would not pay the MLC the mechanical royalties associated with covers, for example, physical goods. If there are covers that are used in digital music, interactive streams, downloads, then those royalties those mechanical royalties do flow through the MLC as long as that digital service is using our blanket mechanical license. Do I need both MLC and HFA? So the MLC and HFA are two separate entities. The MLC exclusively administers the blanket digital mechanical license, whereas HFA represents publishers and digital services on a number of music licensing matters, including direct mechanical licenses, as well as other types of licenses like performance licenses and sync licenses. So HFA has a much broader business than the MLC's mandate, which means as a rights holder, it's in your, it should be in your best interest to make sure that you have relationships with all companies that are representing digital services and representing their administration needs. So it would make sense to work with HFA as HFA is working on matters outside of the scope of the MLC and our blanket license. What's the cost of the service MLC provides? How is this assessed and billed, please? Okay, I know I went over this pretty fast, but I'll repeat that the MLC does not charge an administrative fee. 100% of our operating costs are paid by the um, DSPs. So 100% of the royalties that you earn that we match are paid through to you on a monthly basis. So there's no fee to join, and there's no commission on your royalties. How long does it take to become registered after signing up? Um, it depends on how much information you're able to provide at the sign up process, and how quickly we can verify that information. But it should be in a couple of weeks, if not sooner, that you can become a member. You can begin the process by going to www.mlc.com, click on the Connect to Collect button, and then select that you're a self-administered songwriter and fill out the form. And there's some information we need to capture. It's important, obviously, to also make sure you have your tax information and banking information so that you can set up your payments to receive your royalties. Chris asks, I know there is just an allocation share for the MLC. Does the MLC provide for producers under the AMP Act? So the MLC, we're only mandated under the Title I, which is the Musical Works Modernization Act. The AMP Act is Title III, and that is being worked on by Sound Exchange. So if you want to learn more about AMP Act, you can go to the Sound Exchange and learn more about what that is. Okay, David asks, if I have a PRO and I'm using CD Baby and DistroKid Wayback to admin publishing rights, will I still find any of my songs via MLC? So you should see your songs in the public search for the MLC, regardless of who your administrator or publisher is. If you do not see your songs in our database, then you want to contact your publishing administrator or publisher just to verify that those works are being registered. I own 100% of everything as writer and artist performer with my own label and publishing company. It does sound like I won't be able to be a member as I've got a third party doing publishing. Okay, so yes, if you own 100% of your rights, you are self-published, but that does not mean you're self-administered. Self-administered means that you're also administering those rights. Administration means to register works and to collect royalties in the United States for the MLC. So for example, I can own 100% of my publishing, but then I can hire a third-party publisher to be my administrator for the purposes of registering works and collecting royalties. That means I'm not self-administered. I am self-published though. If you can be self-published and not self-administered, you can be self-published and self-administered, which means I own 100% of my rights, but I also register my works and collect my own royalties. All right, give me one minute. I think we have some messages from LinkedIn. I want to check. Okay, I have a question from LinkedIn Live. If you're with BMI or ASCAP, why would you need the MLC? I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I really need to know. Sure. The MLC does not administer performance rights, and ASCAP and BMI does not administer distribution and reproduction rights, which are mechanical royalties. We're two different types of organizations representing different rights and royalties. Your PROs represent performance royalties, and the MLC, Mechanical Licensing Collective, represents mechanical royalties. So you need both because you are earning both performance royalties and mechanical royalties from your interactive streaming. If you're only collecting mechanical royalties, then you're leaving your performance royalties on the table. If you're only collecting your performance royalties, then you're leaving your mechanical royalties on the table. So there are different royalty types represented by different types of organizations. Will video streaming ever be included in MLC? Video streaming is audio visual works that is not included at the MLC. It's not covered for mechanical rights in the United States. Okay, I believe I answered those questions. I'm going to jump back to the questions here. From Dawn asks, how do we know which DSPs are using MLC? As you just mentioned, if cover songs are on DSPs. So on our website, you can actually visit our website and see the, let's see if I can get over to our website really quick. And I'll show you how to define them. So here, if you go how it works, you can click on DSP notices. And these are the notices from the DSPs who have notified the MLC that they are operating under the blanket license. And then here are notices from DSPs who are not operating under the blanket license. So this is how you know if a particular DSP is operating under the blanket license, which means they will be reporting to the MLC and paying royalties, mechanical royalties. So for example, back to the cover song example, if you do a cover and you secure a cover license, which you cannot secure a cover license from the MLC. You have to do that from another organization. But you secure a cover license from the publisher. The royalties that are earned on that cover on a DSP, such as Spotify, those royalties will be paid to the MLC and reported to the MLC, so that we then match it to the musical work information for that publisher and that original writer, and then pay the royalties out. So in that particular scenario, you're not paying direct mechanical royalties because the DSP is paying those royalties. Okay, another question from Stephen. Do you pay royalties for streaming services such as Spotify in addition to what is paid by services such as CD Baby? Yes, it's a great question. I want to go back to the presentation and back here. Okay, so your question is, are we paying royalties in addition to the royalties paid by CD Baby? So yes, so under sound recording, when you distribute your music to, you use Spotify as an example, so I'll use Spotify. When you upload your music to Spotify, it earns royalties for the sound recording. So on the sound recording side here. And those royalties for the reproduction and distribution of the sound recording are paid to your distributor, in this case, CD Baby, and then it's paid to you, the self-release artist. But in addition to royalties for the sound recording, there are royalties earned for the musical work. Remember, the musical work is the song, which are the lyrics and the melody. Those royalties are performance royalties, which are paid through your PRO, and then your mechanical royalties, which for the blanket license is paid to the MLC. So as you can see here, there are 3 types of royalties that are earned for your music on Spotify. You have your 2 royalty types for your musical work, which is your underlining lyrics and melody, your performance royalties, and your reproduction rights for your mechanical royalties. And then you have your sound recording related royalties or your master income. That's paid through your CD Baby. If you're using CD Baby Pro, however, CD Baby Pro is a publishing administration service that collects this performance and mechanical royalties on your behalf and then pays you out. They will collect it in this publisher share box as your administrator. So as an administrator, these royalties will be paid to CD Baby Pro and then paid to you as a songwriter. So you see down here as a songwriter. In regards to performance shares, half is paid to songwriters and half is paid to administrators. Okay, I have a question here from Ruben. If I plan to distribute all my music through DistroKid, should I still register with MLC? So as far as I know, DistroKid does not have a publishing administration service. DistroKid would be collecting your and paying you the sound recording royalties, your reproduction and distribution for the sound recording royalties. So this would be DistroKid as a distributor, and then you as a self-release artist. But then you have your performance royalties and mechanical royalties. Since DistroKid does not have a publishing administration division, you would need to make sure that you have something in place to collect these royalties. That means you can join these organizations directly. You can join the MLC and collect your mechanical royalties, and then you should have a PRO collecting your performance royalties. Okay, I'm going to answer a question from LinkedIn Live. Can you give us an estimate of what percentage of royalties are paid to compositions compared to master recordings? It's going to vary. The royalties are the royalty rates for each DSP is negotiated with rights holders, with labels, with collectives that represent labels such as um, Merlin, for example. So that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. The royalty rates for mechanical royalties are set by the copyright royalty judge, royalty board, and those rates are currently being updated. So I believe we have on our website a section. Well, when you get your statements, the statements will have much more accurate information on the royalties that you receive from each service, because it's going to be slightly different. The royalty rates are going to take into account a number of variables, such as the overall revenue, the percentage of revenue, the split between performance and mechanical royalties. So it takes a number of variables. There's a set rate for the CRB, but then there will be the shares or the portion for the composition and the portion for the sound recording, which might be slightly different. On the sound recording side, it's a direct negotiation between sound recording owners. So each one is going to be a little different. So we can't really provide that information here, but you'll get accurate information regarding your royalties in your monthly statements. Richley asks, what if your songs were in the MLC database under your songwriter name via your administrator, but later recommended to be placed under your publishing company? Which one is recommended? Well, at the end of the day, the MLC is going to pay out shares to whichever entity is administering the song. So if the publisher is the administrator, then you make sure you have that information. If there's another administrator that's representing on behalf of the publisher, then you have to have that information. So it's not really about which one is better or recommended. It's simply about which party is responsible for collecting the royalties. Steve asked, why can't BMI or ASCAP also do what MLC is doing? In other words, why are there two entities instead of just one? Well, that's a great question. In the United States, BMI and ASCAP are regulated by dissent decrees, which limits their, what they can do. You can contact them and learn more about what they can do in terms of scope as a PRO. The MLC was mandated, so it's law that the MLC exists, or a mechanical licensing collective. The MLC was designated to be that mechanical licensing collective. So it's simply, it's the law of the land. And right now there are PROs that are limited in terms of what they can do based on what's called a consent decree. And then there's the notion that we have the MLC, we have the Music Modernization Act, which established the Mechanical Licensing Collective. Chris asks, for foreign writers I represent, they are covered under reciprocal agreements with their societies for MLC royalties. So for foreign writers that are members of foreign CMOs, then those CMOs that are members of the MLC will receive the royalties on behalf of those writers. I believe, let me go back to an earlier slide here. Here we go. So ex-US, which is foreign mechanical CMOs, are members of the MLC. They will receive the royalties and pay those royalties out to their songwriter members in their territory. Anna asks, if I'm a non-US country, but my music is streamed in the US, should I register to the MLC? So that depends. Again, if you're a member of a local CMO, then they may be a member of the MLC and they'll be collecting the royalties on your behalf. If you're not a member of a CMO, a mechanical CMO in your territory, then you can become a member of the MLC. as long as you're self-administered for those works. So you do not need to be a US citizen or living in the United States to be a member of the MLC. You simply need to be a self-administered songwriter who has administration rights for the use of your music in the United States. Stephen asks, a quick follow-up to my CD Baby question. How come I didn't receive a statement or payment from the MLC for all my streams? It's not a lot. I stream every day on Spotify, Amazon. I can see those streams being reported and paid in my CD Baby account. Stephen, if you are, you need to join the MLC first, make sure your works are registered, and make sure your payment information is up to date. Those are the things that has to take place. Also, there is a threshold in terms of payments. I believe the threshold is $5 if you have ACH payments and $100 if you're receiving paper check payments. So you need to hit a certain amount of streams to generate the minimum amount of income in order to receive a payment. So you can check your account if you are directly administering and you're a member of the MLC and your works are registered, and we had the information by the 10th of February, then you can follow up with support to get a little bit more information about your unique case. Tess asked, what trends are you seeing with podcasts that use little or no music? I'm not really sure what you mean. We're not dealing with podcasts. We're dealing with audio service, audio, music, only musical works that are purely embodied in sound recordings, not podcasts. Rich Lee asks, I'm the songwriter and own the publishing company for tax purposes. Which one serves the better purpose? Well, you're going to have to ask your tax advisor. I can't provide you tax information, Rich Lee. My songs were in the MLC database under my government name and registered that way based on how you guys collect monies, which is preferred, my name or my company's name when re-registering them with the MLC. Again, that is an individual business decision based on your own scenario. I can't advise you on tax purposes. I can tell you that the MLC will pay out any party that has shares. So whether it's an individual or an entity, if it has mechanical shares registered in the MLC, I will pay them out. Now, how that affects you from a tax standpoint, you would need to check with a tax advisor. Richly asked, to get both my shares, do I register as myself or my publishing company? I want to reiterate that the MLC does not pay out like publisher shares and writer shares like a PRO does. We simply pay out mechanical shares, meaning we need to know what are the collection shares for 100% of the work. That could be just you. Like I can be a songwriter and own 100% of the work and collect 100% of the work. So that just means you register as a songwriter and you put that you have 100% of the collection. There doesn't need to be a publisher registered if you don't have a publisher. It's not like PROs where you must have a 50% publisher share and a 50% songwriter share. That's not, we do not distribute in publisher and writer shares at all. We distribute in collection shares, and they are paid out to songwriters, to administrators, to music publishers based on your collection share. So it's not based on you needing a publisher account and a separate writer account. It's simply you are a member and you collect a percentage of your mechanical rights, your mechanical royalties, and that percentage could be 100% and it could be less. Richie asks, are mechanical shares paid to the publisher or the songwriter? Again, we pay mechanicals to any party that has a collection share. That party could be a publisher, could be a songwriter, could be administrator. We do not have a allocated percentage to publishers and an allocated percentage to writers that you see with PROs that has, for example, 50% share to publisher share, 50% to writer share. We do not have that. It's simply one big bucket. So once you register with MLC, once you join the MLC, register your works and input your payment information. Make sure that your works appear in our public database. After that point, once we receive usage statements from DSPs, we match that usage information to the musical works in our database. We're able to divvy up the royalties for those works based on the collection shares that have been registered for those works, and then we make payments to the accounts that have been provided. I have another LinkedIn Live question. Is there a company that does it all in one place? So I'm assuming you mean publishing administration or a publisher. So a publisher's job is to represent your publishing functions, which includes to administer your works. A self-publishing administrator does that as well, to register your works and collect your royalties. So you could, of course, opt into working with a publishing administrator or get signed to a publishing deal, in which case those entities would be representing your works at the MLC. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I'm just going to wait one more minute to see if any more questions come in. Question from Stephen. Is it important to have the ISRC codes? Having the ISRC code when you register your work is very important. It's helpful to help us to identify the sound recording associated with the musical work information. So if you have your ISRCs, you can include that in your work registrations. I highly recommend it. When we receive the data from DSPs, it includes ISRC codes, but a lot of time it will not include the ISWC code. So we need to match the sound recording to the musical work information you've already provided, and we can do that with the ISRC code. So definitely take your ISRC codes from your distributors and use that in your registrations. Okay, so I'm just remind you that we have a support team. They're readily available 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 9 hours on the weekend on Saturday. Feel free to reach out for additional questions and check the portal. Thank you for tuning in.